Hey guys, it's me, Mr. 250, and welcome back to Banshee's Last Cry. This one was in Grace's room. Another sort of same feeling kind of, and at least we didn't get done in by Grace though. I feel like that's kind of got a bit of a tragedy to it, honestly. This time we everyone just kind of got murdered. Which, as an alternate route, that wouldn't have been a bad first route as an alternate to the one I did. Now, the ones we're going to start doing next are going to make you feel bad in different ways, probably. If you've gotten attached to the characters already, like I have. So, let me get back to where we need to be. Let's see. Right about here. And I'll show you where we're going to be at. Okay, sorry. I was actually mistaken. This is where we needed to go. So this was right after we found Bobby outside and we dragged him back inside, checked for a pulse, and we couldn't even detect the faintest sound. Now last time we said even if it's impossible for one person, several people could do it working together. This time we're going to say, Mr. Buchanan, now that I think about it, I never made sure he was dead. Which is a little creepy if you think about it. Neither Grace nor I had even touched his body. Could he be lurking around inside the inn even now, looking for an opportunity to kill us all off? I need to make sure that Buchanan is really dead, I thought. Once again, taking a firm grip on the mop handle, I walked slowly towards the cellar door. It was half open, just as I had seen it last. Taking a deep breath, I proceeded down the stairs. I'd only gone down about halfway when I saw his body. He was lying at the bottom of the stairs, just as before. Was it possible he was just pretending to be dead? Could he have killed the forest, attacked Bobby, then come back here to the cellar? I went down the last few steps even more carefully and looked at the area around Mr. Buchanan. Once again, I smelled that rusty iron smell I'd become so acquainted with over the last few hours. The dark stain spread out around his head confirmed it. Blood. Another thing I'd like to add, I just thought about this. I did want to say it for a while, but I just thought about it. So, like it was pointed out before, it's kind of hard to figure out who the killer is. Like, if it's one of us, we're not really sure because everyone seems to be dead, and we're assuming that we haven't done it, of course. Everyone else seems to, be dead in both of these endings that we've done. So who did it? Well, I mean, I guess the possibility that Grace could have done it is still there, but it just seems highly unlikely. It almost seems more likely that an outside individual did it, right? So at this point, we kind of need to start investigating a little bit more thoroughly than we have been. Because, if we don't check Mr. Buchanan's dead body, we just assume he's dead. He could have been alive. And that's the important thing here, is that we've kind of already exhausted all of our very simple detective skills. We need to be thinking a bit further ahead if we want to actually figure out who this killer is. Using the tip of the broom, I softly prodded Buchanan's body. He didn't move. Then I knelt down and touched his wrist. It was cold. I searched for a pulse, but as expected, I couldn't find one. So he was dead after all. For a moment, I felt a surge of relief. Now I confirmed Buchanan was dead. What did that mean then? Was a zombie? A living corpse reanimating itself when I wasn't looking and going around killing people? If it wasn't that, then one of the girls must be a vicious, bloodthirsty murderer. Wait a minute. A living corpse? Kneeling down again and holding back an urge to vomit, I took a close look at Buchanan's face. His eyes were wide open, and his blood-stiffened hair was stuck in the great gash in his forehead. I put my hand on his chest. As soon as I touched the skin, I could tell the body had cooled, and there wasn't even a faint heartbeat. Ah, the puzzle pieces suddenly fit into place. I finally knew who was behind this nightmare. The killer is... Now, option A is none other than that will actually pull up a keyboard for me and allow me to select who the killer is. Out of everybody I know, or I can enter anything. I can enter the cat's name in, which I will inform you of right now. The cat is not the killer. Sorry to spoil it, but we can enter in a name into that, and that's what we will be using later. Now, of course, we also have the option of Grace, which is a little sinister. And then we're going to choose option C here. Now, this actually isn't part of the story, but I can assure you this isn't going to mess up anything. Me? Give me a break. No one knows better than me that I didn't kill anybody. I just like that. Don't worry, there's other things in the story that are like that. I really do like it when they let you do dumb things like that. So unfortunately, we're gonna have to say that, Grace is the killer, obviously. I mean, couldn't you tell by the evidence? I mean, it was obvious since the beginning. Grace had to be the killer. I couldn't believe it. I didn't want to believe it, but that was the only possibility. With heavy steps, I climbed the stairs and arrived in front of the girls' room. The door was open. Somehow, I knew what I would find even before I went in, because, we did kind of tell Grace to go wait with the girls. Tiffany was lying face up in the bed. There was no blood, but her head was tilted at a grotesque angle. Molly, at first glance, appeared to be sitting and leaning up against the wall. Then I saw that the wall behind her was splattered red, as if a watermelon had been smashed with a sledgehammer. And Debbie. She was lying with her head stuck through the glass of the window, as though she'd been trying to escape. Her back was soaked with blood, and her clothes were torn to shreds. She appeared to have been stabbed viciously over and over. Strangely, I felt nothing. I turned around and went back to my room. Grace, man, I can't believe it. I can't believe Grace. Opening the door, I peeked inside, but no one was there. Then, I heard something and turned around, just in time to see Grace stepping out of her room. When she spotted me, she looked surprised for a moment. But then, she quickly rearranged her face and started walking quickly towards me. I noticed that she was holding her right hand behind her. Max, thank God you're okay. Her face lit up with a bright smile as she came closer. When she got to within a few steps of me, she suddenly sped forward and leaped at me. Even me? You want to kill me too, Grace? I squeezed my eyes shut and swung the mop handle down hard at Grace. Ooh. Ugh. There was a sickening crunch, and I heard her body hit the floor. When I opened my eyes, I saw Grace lying on the ground, holding her head. Shocked at what I had just done, I dropped the mop. Grace? Grace, are you okay? Still holding her face, she struggled to her knees. Bright blood poured out between her hands. Max, why? That's what I want to know. Why, Grace? Why did you kill... Just as I was about to finish my sentence, my eyes settled on what Grace had dropped on the floor. It was her cross necklace. She must have gone back to her room to retrieve it. That's what I had mistakenly assumed was a knife or some other weapon. She hadn't been attacking me after all. She was just running forward to hug me, and Grace. Oh my God, Grace, I'm sorry. I thought you were the killer. Forgive me. She slowly took her hands away from her face and just looked up at me. It was probably just a trick of the light that made me think that I saw the ghost of a smile on her face. Her eyelids fluttered, and then she collapsed. Grace! 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 I killed Grace! Oh my God! This is just a terrible nightmare. Soon, I'll be waking up in my own bed. Grace will be knocking on the door, shouting at me to get up. Hurry up and get moving. You'll be late for breakfast. Not a bad way to start the day, huh? Then we'll drive off, and she'll give me snowboard lessons until I can barely walk. I'll make a lot of progress, and then we'll head back home. After that, Christmas break will wrap up, and it'll be time for classes to start again. Then Grace and I will be a couple, a real one, and we both know that sometime after graduation we're going to be married. Strange. Thinking all these wonderful things, why are my eyes filling up with tears? This is just a dream, and Grace and I are still enjoying our vacation together. There's nothing to cry about. I didn't realize someone was standing in front of me until the shadow fell across my line of vision. Slowly I looked up, but my vision was blurred by the tears, and all I could make out was a vague outline. Who are you? There was no answer. I heard a sharp whistling noise, and a shock exploded in my skull and ran through my whole body. The world spun wildly, and darkness began to overtake me. The dream was over. Now I could finally escape from this endless nightmare. Grace, come on and wake me up. Grace. A mop to Grace's head. A little bit dark, that one, isn't it? Killing your own girlfriend, and she was the one that was relying on you for support. Ooh, that's dark, isn't it? Always gives me a little bit of a chill to play that one. This is the third time I've done it. So, that's a mop to Grace's head. Now, let's see. We're going to move on to the next one. This one is also a little bit spooky. And we actually don't have to do a whole lot different here. In fact, some of this is going to be very similar. So let me hop back to where we were. And we'll get right to that. Alright, so we're back here again. And this time we need to make a different decision. We need to say none other than... Now, I'm going to try to offer a rational explanation for this. So we're going to say Amber. Here, Miss Buchanan. Now, she does seem a little bit suspicious, doesn't she? Because every time we've told her about her husband being dead, she doesn't really cry, or she doesn't really seem to get that emotional about it. She seems kind of dead to it, almost. Now, you know, some might say, well, that's just her way of coping. What if she's also a killer, and she's just trying desperately to, you know, she knows she's going to get found out. What if she's trying desperately to cover it up? Maybe she was secretly mad at him. Maybe he, you know, she found out that he was cheating, and she was one of those crazy ladies that just couldn't handle it, and she wanted to kill him off. And she was hoping for a ski trip like this to give her an opportunity to do so. So we're going to say none other than Amber. So, the killer is Amber. But could she have really killed everyone by herself? I didn't think so. She must have been working together with Mr. Buchanan. Then, she pushed him down the stairs to his death. That should have been easy enough, even for her. I decided to hurry back upstairs. Uh-oh. Just as I reached the railing, I heard a scream. It came from above me. I took a firm grip on the mop handle and dashed towards the girls' room. When I got there, I knocked lightly. "Who is it?" a soft voice whispered. It was Grace. "It's me. Open up. Bobby was attacked outside." And so most of this is going to be very similar. Then he asked, "Where's Miss Buchanan?" I asked. She never showed up. All three girls were right there in the room. So then, that scream from before was... Grace, did anyone leave this room? No, not even for a minute. Strange. The only person not here was Amber. So she must be the killer. So then, who screamed? Was it still possible that some stranger had done all of this and was attacking Amber now? I felt like for every 2 steps forward, every step forward I was taking 2 steps back. Suddenly, I noticed that all 3 girls were huddled together, whispering and staring at me with frightened looks on their faces. "Why are you looking at me like that?" "Don't play dumb with us," Molly shouted, her eyes glittered angrily. "We heard that scream before too. You can't fool us anymore." "Oh, wait, hang on a second. You don't think I killed Amber, do you? Come on. There's no one else besides you. Bobby and Mr. Buchanan are both dead. You said that yourself." "Yeah, but Grace, tell him it's not me." I looked to her for help, but saw only doubt and confusion in her face. "Grace, you can't think that I..." "No, I don't want to think so. But when we all heard that scream, we were all here. Now even Grace was suspecting me." "She would suspect you after you smashed her head in, you punk." It was like a dagger through my heart. Frantically, I tried to explain. "Listen to me. I think the killers were Mr. and Mrs. Buchanan. Working together, they were easily capable of killing everyone. Then, after the murders were finished, Amber shoved her husband down the stairs, killing him too." "Well, doesn't that make sense?" "So what about that scream before?" Molly asked skeptically. "That was just Amber acting. She was trying to lure us by pretending like she was attacked." The girls looked at each other, weighing my words. "What if it wasn't an act?" Grace asked reproachfully. "Are we just going to let Amber die?" "Well, I'm telling you that's not what happened. There was no one else, right? It has to be an act." "The truth is, you think I'm the killer," I thought. But I didn't say that. Besides, even if there was some other killer that attacked Amber, we'd already be too late to save her. I realized that I'd said too much. The girls' faces grew red with anger. Max, my God, I didn't think you were so cold-hearted. I've heard enough. I'm going to check on her myself. Wait, what are you talking about? I'm not going to let you put yourself in danger like that. Grace shook off my hand angrily and moved towards the door. Leave me alone. Let me do what I want. She flung open the door and ran outside. I rushed after her. Stopping in front of the Buchanan's door, she stopped and knocked. Miss Buchanan! Miss Buchanan, are you alright? Having come this far, there was no point in trying to stop her. I moved close and turned the knob. It wouldn't open. It's no good, Grace. It's locked. Go to the front desk and get the key, Grace demanded, a tortured look on her face. I thought Amber was probably inside trying to stay quiet, but I didn't say anything. Okay, I will. But I want you to go back to the room first. She hesitated for a moment, but finally relented and went back to the three girls' room. I waited until I was sure she had closed and locked the door before heading for the front desk. I searched the front desk, but I couldn't tell which key was the right one. I figured that there must be a master key, but Mr. Force probably kept it somewhere safe. Just as I was debating whether or not I should go to Mr. Forrest's room to search for the key, the lights went out. I heard the girl scream immediately. This was no time to worry about Amber's safety. I had to get back to Grace right away. But with my sudden loss of light, I also lost my sense of direction. Suddenly, a terrible thought occurred to me. Could this blackout be the work of the killer? Maybe he or she went to the fuse box, hit the breakers, and was getting ready to kill the rest of us off. I started to get the feeling that someone was in the dark, watching me. I tried to breathe as silently as I could. Unless they had some kind of night vision equipment, they wouldn't be able to see me either. But despite my attempts to calm myself down, I was unable to hold down the fear that was surging up inside me. If Amber wasn't behind the murder, the only possibility was that this was the work of some phantom killer. Someone like that would almost certainly be able to see my every move, even in the dark. I had to get away. I had to find someplace safe to hide. My heart was beating so loud that I felt like everyone in the inn could hear it. I was certain that even if the killer couldn't see me, my heartbeat would give away my location. My eyes must have adjusted to the dark as I stood there, paralyzed with fear, because soon I could discern the dim outline of the stairs. Slowly, I made my way to the girls' room. Since that last scream, I hadn't heard a single sound from the second floor. It was almost as if everything and everyone had suddenly frozen, or died. I pushed that thought from my mind. The girls were probably just frightened and doing their best to stay quiet. No one, not even a phantom killer, could sneak into a locked room and kill 4 people without making a sound. Suddenly the floorboards squeaked. I stopped in my tracks. I felt like I could almost hear someone breathing next to me. I stood as still as a stone and held my breath. Max, are you there? It was Grace. Hearing the terror in her voice, my own fear suddenly left me. I felt my way forward blindly until I touched her. Grace, why did you come out? It's too dangerous. We held each other in the darkness, as if to reassure ourselves that we were both still safe. When the lights went out all of a sudden, I was afraid that something had happened to you. Grace had braved the worst kind of danger, just to find out if I was okay. At that moment, I felt that I'd never loved someone so much in my entire life. Let's go back to the room. If we stay here, we could be attacked any second. With our arms linked closely together, we made our way up the hall. But we had no idea which door was which, or even... Oh, dang it. Hold on. Sorry, I thought I put my phone in airplane mode, but apparently I didn't. So, yeah, I blocked that. But we had no idea which door was which. After trying the wrong door several times, we finally arrived back at the girls' room. We're coming in. The door wasn't locked, so we went right in, then closed and locked the door behind us. We felt our way in the darkness to the nearest bed and searched for a place to sit. Just then, I stepped on something soft and nearly fell. Anyone want to hazard a guess at what that might be? Be careful, Max. I couldn't respond. It was... The light suddenly came back on. At exactly the same time, we both let out a scream of horror and fell down in front of the bathroom door. The room was a sea of blood. Tiffany, Molly, and Debbie, they were all lying there, blood gushing and spurting from their slashed throats. No! Screaming, Grace buried her face in my shoulder and began to shake uncontrollably. I sat there in shock, staring at the gruesome scene and thinking, who? No. What kind of monster had done all of this to them? I was sure I had only heard one scream, but in those brief few seconds, someone or something had slashed the throats of all three girls before they could even cry out for help. Could the killer have snuck silently in the darkness and slashed their throats one by one? Or maybe... Unable to believe it, but unable to stop myself from considering it. I stared down at the woman, who was sobbing and shaking beside me. Grace. She had the opportunity to do it. She had been in the room when it happened. It was strange, too strange, that she was the only one that survived. I was happy that she was worried about me, but what kind of woman would leave a safe room in the dark with a crazy murderer running around? If she herself were the killer, she would know there was nothing to fear, and she would come out of the room without a single worry in the world. Max, can we go to a different room? Grace asked tearfully. Was this just acting too? I didn't know what to think anymore. It definitely seemed like Grace was the killer here, but what about the other deaths? Surely some of the other murders must have been impossible for her to commit. But at that moment, I didn't have the mental strength to go through the details of each one again. Important thing to remember here, this is, he's so busy and he's so terrified and panicked and tired that he just doesn't logically think some of these things through. Keep that in mind. Suddenly I realized Grace was staring at me. Max, you're not... Oh God, you think I killed them? I didn't answer, but it was the same as admitting it. How could you even think that? Look at this horrible slaughter. I shouted back at her without hesitating. I don't want to believe it either, Grace. I really cared about you. I mean, more than just cared. But now, I didn't even know what I was saying anymore. So you don't believe me at all? Fine, Grace said to herself in a hollow voice. She moved up away from me and stood up. Hey, where are you going? You don't want to be alone with the killer, right? I'm going back to my room. I'd never heard Grace sound so cold and emotionless before. The voice in my heart told me to stop her from leaving, to tell her that I loved her, but I couldn't do that. All I wanted at that moment was to be by myself, to get away from the pile of corpses, away from Grace. At that moment, I was the only person I could trust completely. I left the room and went back to my own. Once inside, I locked the door and collapsed on the bed. I just want to sleep, I thought to myself. I was exhausted like I'd never been before, in body and soul. I could hardly keep my eyes open. Well, just then, I heard the longest and most horrible scream I'd ever heard in my life. It must have gone on for at least 10 seconds. It stopped abruptly, and silence returned. Could that be Grace laying a trap for me? No, I didn't think so. If she'd wanted to kill me, she would have done it before, when we were alone. Or maybe she had decided that the only way was to kill me was to take me by surprise. I could think of two possibilities, but each one was just as unthinkably horrible as the other. Either Grace was still alive and wanted to kill me, or some demonic killer had just murdered Grace, the woman I loved. I felt like there was a fresh gaping wound in my heart. I no longer cared what happened. I decided that no matter what possibility was true, there was only one thing left for me to do. I got up from the bed, went to the door and unlocked it. I then laid back down and decided to just go to sleep. Whoever the killer was, eventually they too would come here and kill me. If I was going to die by Grace's hand, I was ready for that. But if she was already dead, well... I smiled softly as I thought about it. Soon, we would be together. A gentle sleep. Once again, a poor ending on our part. Yeah. And we're going to do one more tonight. This one I know should not take us longer than 5 minutes, so we might go a little bit over time. But this is going to be the last one we're going to do where we're not really going to get... I ordered these in a way where I didn't want to spoil anything, because about half of these endings are heavy spoilers as to the nature of the killer. So we're going to do this one, and then next episode you guys will actually be able to see who the killer is. Hope you're excited. Sorry, I'm not going to give you well, I might adjust the route a little bit. I'll think about it. But next route, we either are going to find out about the killer or we're going to start a route that will give us information about said killer. So, be right back for our last route tonight. Alright, so you guys should remember this section. This is right out... Whoops, sorry. This is right after we wake up, with Grace, and we find out Grace isn't there. We decide to go out. We hear a scream, and we need to make the decision between going and get to Grace right away or deciding to knock on the doors. We are going to be knocking on the doors calling for help. A reasonable decision, I would have to say. So, what if all the others had been killed? I froze. There was a creaking sound from the stairs behind me. Someone was coming up to the second floor. That's when I knew. Now, at this point, we all obviously know it was Grace, because if we choose it had to be Grace, we find Grace, we embrace her, we go and check the force. But what if, because we don't really know at this point in the story, what if we thought it was the killer? I was sure it was the killer. Tiptoeing silently to the wall at the top of the stairway, I pressed myself flat against it and held my breath. The footsteps were coming closer. My heart was pounding so hard, I was afraid the killer would hear it. I didn't know who it was, but if they had harmed Grace, anger-fueled adrenaline poured into my body. I waited until the footsteps were just one step from the top, and then I attacked. Using both hands, I pushed straight at the shadowy figure with all my strength. My hand made contact with something soft and warm. Eek! The shadow let out a scream, then fell backwards down the flight of stairs. I looked down and saw a twisted jumble of arms and legs at the bottom, along with the neck craned at an impossible angle. It was Grace. No, that couldn't be Grace. My legs refused to move, as if they were encased in plaster, but I forced myself to walk stiffly down step by step. Grace? Grace? She didn't respond. She probably just fainted, I told myself. I tried not to see the thin ribbons of blood flowing from her nose and mouth. Grace! Grace! I knelt down and took her body in my arms. Her head flopped backwards loosely, as if it was only connected by skin. Ah! My mind was white noise. The only thing to do was to escape from there, from the nightmare, from the inn, from the body of the woman I just killed. I ran to the entrance, and out the door. I didn't feel cold at all. I just kept running straight into the blinding snowstorm. When I tripped in the snow, I got to my feet and kept running. When I slammed into trees, I changed direction and kept going. I have no idea how far I ran. At some point, I just found myself lying face down in a soft cushion of snow, no longer able to get up. I could feel the falling snow cover my back like a gentle white blanket. It was protecting me from the harsh, biting wind. I had never known that snow could feel so warm. Ah, finally the dream is over. That terrible, terrible dream. Grace takes a fall. Now that one, I've actually talked to my friend about this, the friend that recommended this game to me, and we both agree that this is one of the probably most tragic endings out of all of them, out of any of them, because, see, at the very least, a mop to Grace's head, you have a slight suspicion here. And you decide to further go on to it, that Grace may in fact be the killer, and you crack her skull with a mop, killing her, and you get killed afterwards. And then, the one we did before this, where we suspected Grace may in fact have been the killer. We left her, and then she ended up getting killed, obviously. But all of these we suspected her. So at the very least, we were intentional about the killing of Grace, or the letting Grace die type thing. This one's a bit more tragic, because at this point, we are still 100% trusting in Grace, and we just murdered her. And as a result, we can't take it, and we basically commit suicide by just running until we die. A little bit tragic, I'd have to say. Now, we've gotten all these ones out of the way where we basically don't learn anything. Next, we're going to move on to something that's going to tell us what the killer is. I may mess with this order a little bit, looking at it now. Thinking about it a bit, maybe. I may switch the next two around, which may cause our next route to take a little bit longer. Because otherwise, the next one would be really short. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed today's terror-filled episodes. A lot of fun. I quite enjoy these ones a lot. As much as they are horrible and terrifying. Let me know what you guys think as well. And next time we'll come back and get ourselves a whole heck of a lot closer to finding out the killer. And maybe even making some progress into not having everybody killed. That could be useful. Yeah. Anyway, thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye!